AITA for taking all my mom's photos from dad's house and asking his new wife why it's any of her fucking business. I, 17M, live with my dad. Well, for now, I'm planning to move out this summer, but until then, I'm stuck here in what used to be my home, but honestly, it doesn't feel like it anymore. Not since she moved in. My dad got remarried last month. His new wife, Rebecca, had been long distance with him for about 3 years because of her job. I never really bonded with her. I mean, she'd visit sometimes, and I was polite, but that was it. I wasn't rude or mean, but I also wasn't particularly warm. It wasn't that I hated her, I just didn't know her. And from the start, it felt like she was trying to insert herself into our lives like she'd always been here. The thing is, she hadn't. For years, it was just me and my dad. And before that, it was me, my dad, and my mom. My mom passed away when I was 10. Cancer. She fought hard, but in the end, it took her. And when she died, our whole world just crumbled. My dad didn't take it well. He tried to keep it together for me, but I could hear him crying at night. Some days, he wouldn't even get out of bed. Other days, he'd pretend everything was fine, but I knew it wasn't. I knew because I felt the same way. Everything felt empty without her. For years, it was just the two of us navigating through grief in our own messy ways. The house was filled with memories of her, photos, little things she had decorated, even her handwriting still on the whiteboard in the kitchen. It was like she was there, even if she wasn't. Eventually, my dad started dating again. I was 14 when he met Rebecca, and at first, I didn't think much of it. He'd had a couple of short-lived relationships before her, but nothing serious. But Rebecca stuck. She lived in another state, so they mostly saw each other on weekends or holidays, and honestly, I barely noticed. It was easy to ignore something that wasn't in my face all the time. But then, suddenly she was. Last month, they got married. It was a small ceremony, mostly family and close friends. I was there, of course. I even gave a speech, short, polite, but distant. I didn't call her mom. I didn't talk about how happy I was that my dad had found love again. Because, honestly, I wasn't. Not because I didn't want him to be happy, but because I didn't know what she wanted. She didn't love me. She barely knew me. She loved him. And now, she was moving in. I told myself it wouldn't be a big deal. I'd just keep my head down, do my own thing, and get out when I could. But I underestimated how much she wanted to change things. A week after she moved in, I came home from school, and the house felt different. It took me a minute to realize what had changed. And then it hit me. All of the photos of my mom were gone. The ones in the hallway, gone. The ones in the living room, gone. The framed picture of her and my dad on their wedding day that used to sit on his nightstand, gone. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I went straight to my dad, asked him what the hell happened. He looked tired, like he'd been preparing for this conversation all day. He told me Rebecca didn't want them up, that she said it was supposed to be her home now, and she couldn't build a life here with another woman's memories staring at her, that she needed to feel like she was his wife, not just his second wife. I just stood there stunned, and the worst part, my dad agreed with her. He said it wasn't about erasing my mom, just about giving Rebecca a chance to feel at home, that I was welcome to take any photos I wanted before he put the rest in storage. Storage. Like my mom was some old piece of furniture collecting dust in the attic. So I took them. Every single one. Not just the ones with me in them. Not just the ones I personally cared about. All of them. If Rebecca didn't want them in her house, then fine. But they weren't going into some forgotten storage bin. I brought them over to my grandparents' place, where I knew they'd be safe. At first, Rebecca didn't seem to care. When she saw me taking a few, she even smiled and said, "That's nice. I'm glad you're keeping some." But then she saw me taking all of them. And suddenly, she cared. She asked me why I needed every single one. I just shrugged and said, "Because they matter." She pressed, asked if I was trying to send some kind of message. And that's when I snapped. I asked her, "Why is it any of your fucking business?" She looked shocked, like I had just slapped her across the face. She told me I was being disrespectful, that I was acting like she was some evil stepmother, when all she wanted was to feel like this was her home. She said it felt like a big fuck you to her that I wouldn't even let my dad keep a few photos in storage. That's when I said, "Sounds like you were planning to throw them out once our backs were turned." She lost it. She started ranting about how I was twisting her words, how I was being unfair, how I was treating her like she didn't belong. She turned to my dad and demanded to know why I had such an attitude with her. I told her, "Because you're interfering in something that doesn't concern you." It became a full-blown argument. My dad stepped in, told us both to cool off, but Rebecca wouldn't let it go. She kept saying I was being rude, that I was treating her like a stranger in her own home, that I wasn't even trying to accept her as part of the family. The thing is, she's right, because she's not my family. My family is my dad. My family was my mom. My family is my grandparents. Rebecca is just the woman my dad married. Ever since then, things have been tense. Rebecca has been distant, cold. She barely talks to me unless she has to, and when she does, her voice is clipped and short. My dad keeps trying to smooth things over, but I can tell he's exhausted. Part of me wonders if I overreacted. I know I was rude. I did curse at her. I did refuse to even try to compromise. But at the same time, why does she care so much? Why does it matter to her that I took the photos? Why does any of this matter to her? I don't regret taking them, but I don't know if I should have handled it differently. So, AITA,